Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Manal. I am a product manager at Deutsche Bank.
I'm Philippe. I work as a coach with Manal, a system coach and digital change.
Today, we want to really talk to you about culture and those moments of fate, if you want to call them, or serendipity that happen throughout a journey of a group as it sort of moves through its cultural evolution, if you want to think about it that way. And really, when it comes to agility in particular, everybody talks about culture and how much it's important in transforming a team itself into a high-performance team, into a different organization. And yet, it's also true that culture has a habit of bubbling things to the surface that can actually trip you up and head you down the wrong way. In a lot of cases, those moments, really, those things that bubble, are forks in the road, things where leadership or the team or both would have to choose either to do nothing or almost nothing, or to have the courage and the trust to do something different. Those moments of choice often happen by accident, as I said. And in fact, you may not even know they've happened unless you reflect back and try and understand more. There can be small little moments that may seem so unimportant at the time. And then there's those electrifying events, those ground shaking moments where it creates a step change on how you operate and can shift a group significantly. These are the types of moments I'd like to share with you, we'd like to share with you today. As we look back on our group's journey over the last few years, it's those moments of fate that I think made such a huge difference to our group and where it is today. Before we go on, I'd like to just explain to you who our group is or what our group is. Our group, we build software products, and we work very closely with the business when we do that. We're around 500 people in total, globally distributed all the way from Singapore to the US. We have a product portfolio of about 30 applications. Most of them are end of life in one way or another, and about 3 or 4 of them are strategic products. And we support with these products over 3,000 internal users in our bank, who are even more globally distributed. When I was thinking about this talk and our group's culture, I often wondered, do we really have something different as a group? To me, it feels like there is something different, but what do new people coming into our team think about us? What do other teams within our bank think about us? And more importantly, and as importantly, what does our business who work with us think about us? And so I asked, and this is some of the feedback that I actually got. Someone new joining the group said, everyone is positive and passionate, and I know I made the right choice to join. We have a feedback from our business that says, we have gone from working and collaborating to operating as partners based on trust. And a completely different team in the bank said, we've worked with a lot of teams, and this is the first team where the collaboration was great and where the team came with new ideas to try out. This is really who our group has become.
And I was actually a new joiner in this.
Yes.
And I think it's important to say that from my eyes, it's a team that has courage to change the status quo and never settles for the status quo. And that's not every place that can say that. So it's been very interesting how to create that sort of environment to enable that.
Yes,
absolutely.
So let me share with you where our first moment started from. And as I said, sometimes these things happen by accident. One of the first things we did was about 3 years ago, we hired our first coach. Okay, and this wasn't an agile coach because we didn't think agile was really where we had the problem. We'd been doing agile for quite a few years. It just wasn't didn't seem to be working. This coach that came in was an enterprise coach and actually looked at the organization, looked at how we were functioning, and helped us reflect on the things that were important, that were preventing us from moving forwards, those things in culture that trip you up. And fundamentally helped us reflect that we had to focus on our teams so that we could actually deliver our products that we wanted. Out of that, he also talked about and showed us that there need to be a culture of safety. And I have to say, this was lost at me when the moment happened. But over time, I realized that a lot of us were talking through other people to talk to about an individual. And that wasn't safe in any way. It told us there wasn't any psychological safety in there. And over time and connecting with those people at a different level, we started to unpick those relationships and actually create a team culture. We developed a coaching culture. And here what I'm talking about is not so much creating coaches, but using coaching techniques like open questions, like reflections and retrospectives, and really using those techniques to help us evaluate and look at improvement. In addition to that, we also coached the leadership. And here I'm talking not just about the technology leadership, but about the business. And I absolutely remember this moment when one of the business stakeholders came up and said, "So what do I need to do to help?" And that is a question that's asked of us at every single point. What do I need to do to help the team? And doing that with coaching the leadership and the business, we actually helped in breaking down those silos and enabling what we call a culture of unity.
And yeah, just stressing that it's not a norm to have this. It's done to a level where genuinely the business is getting very involved in helping and understanding that it's not demanding, it's actually helping, which is a very big difference, and I think there is that trust through the culture of safety. There is this trust that everybody genuinely pulls their weight to actually do the best they can, and that everybody accepts that, which is great.
Yeah. And then just to add, about a year and a half ago, we extended our leadership team, our coaching team, to Philippe. And again, we chose a very specific type of coach. We didn't choose an agile coach. We looked at what was missing in the group and we hired a systemic coach because it was the interplays, the relationships of how the groups work together that we really wanted to look at and how we could create a better outcome through those relationships on that. I think it's really important to say that in reality, over those 3 years, we still weren't getting to where we wanted to be or where we knew we had to be and could be. We talked at a leadership level about quality and putting production first, and yet our production state was unstable. Our users didn't actually want us releasing anything because of the instability releases caused. And releases were getting harder and harder as our tech debt actually kept on growing. We discussed about stopping all the delivery with our business so we could focus on clearing some of the tech debt and sorting out the pipeline. We almost had the agreement, and then naturally delivery got in the way, and we watered down that focus for a while. Unfortunately, reality has a habit of hitting you hard, yeah? And it did hit us hard. Our releases just couldn't get out of the door. And it was a major one that was coming up that was actually had externally committed dates. And we knew it wasn't going to happen. And it was at that point that we decided actually we were going to pull what we called the Undone Chord. We were going to pull the lever and hit the stop button. And that's exactly what we did. we pulled the lever and stopped delivery. And we only stopped it for a very short period of time, for 2 weeks, so that we could actually focus on and make things better. And I remember those moments, those events, as clear as day, even today, almost a year later, over a year later, whereby we sat in a room with globally over 150 people and asked the question, what is it we can do in 2 weeks that can make things better? And what do we have to keep on doing to keep our pipelines clear and to make our estate a lot better? And the response was amazing. At that point, we focused on improvement and actually set a context of quality and improvement. Those 150 people organized themselves and swarmed over the most critical elements that we had to fix. The change that I saw in those 2 weeks with the 150 people was amazing. It was based on people with a sense of passion and happiness that they were doing something that actually mattered. The business was also on our journey on this. And in fact, they helped us create what we call posters, let's say. But fundamentally, it was about the message that we wanted to give that created the safety and alignment to the context we set. That is of quality and improvement. And that was an important event for us to happen. The posters weren't just there, but they allowed focus for people. And in fact, I found lots of people milling around the posters, actually having a conversation. So what does it mean when we say about relentless improvement? What does it really mean when we talk about quality in everything we do? And how do we make that happen? And that's what those posters really did. And off the back of that, we had that emergence of culture and continuous improvement. I think it's really important at this stage to understand that every group goes through this. Somewhere along the line, you lose focus on what we mean by really business value. And in fact, acting on it is even harder. At that point, when we hit the stop button, it took an awful lot of courage from everyone, from those 150 people, from our business, from our leadership, to trust that we could do something different in that point in time.
And that was very much a turning point. And in my many years of experience, it's I've never seen a better way to use a crisis time effectively to turn things around. And that's something that people forget sometimes, that crises create that electrifying moment that change can happen in crisis, because suddenly things become, the barriers get lowered. And in that case, what was fantastic is, you mentioned the swarming, is actually telling people, no, you stop what you're doing. You choose what you're going to do that is the most useful for what we need to do. And people were like, at first, what am I supposed to do? Can you tell me? And then they got together, and then suddenly it got real. Suddenly, really, the message, there was not a better way to bring that message to the surface and really say, no, quality matters. We're actually stopping for it.
Yeah.
And I think that was a fantastic event that really triggered a lot of people thinking.
And I think it really changed the way the business operated with us as well. Before it was very much, quality is important. We want quality. Please work on quality. But actually now they defend it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if there is they own it and they defend it. And if there is going to be a compromise, we actually can sit down and have a conversation. Yeah, and agree a way forwards. And I think that was a really important element. So that culture of continuous improvement is for everyone, not just the team building the products. And so it continued, really. Beyond that, we invested in a lot of effort and time in bringing a learning culture. And we did that by essentially buying loads of books like the Unicorn Project and distributing those out across the globe to our teams. That in itself created more conversations, because you could see ourselves, our group, in those events that happened in the book. So it was wonderful in there. We also looked about how to create more ownership, and the engineers stepped up and actually took ownership of the releases and cleared the decks effectively for us, because we had a whole pile of inventory building up from release to release as these inventories, and they let all of those through. Naturally, we ended up with value streams and relationships, and building those relationships between the groups as well.
You mentioned the books. For me, it stuck in my mind when one business person actually was recommending to the engineers to read the book because they had read it.
Yes.
Which was, fantastic. When we talk about joining the teams, that was really, in effect, you could see people were all in it, all following that and all developing themselves and for the best. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the strategy to the people, I think, was really important, because as we continued through that journey, we also shared the strategy, we shared the vision, and created a sense of autonomy between the people, so that they could actually start making good decisions. In addition to that, we formed a leadership program, whereby we actually started teaching ourselves and those in leadership roles what it actually means to be leadership, and how they could actually make the organization better.
And I think that's where engineering got more of a space. And by that is not just engineers, it's actually the engineering understanding of everybody and raising the profile of that. So that also, contributed a lot. Yeah.
And so today, this is our group's culture. I thought I'd share it. This is based on feedback that we got from our teams and our business, and very much embodies where we are today. Really, culture is about a set of cultures. It isn't one thing. It's things that happen over time that build up. But the culture of safety for us, I think, is the very first thing that has to happen. I really don't think, if we hadn't broken down those moments whereby you weren't talking to your peers, you weren't talking to the teams, you weren't talking to leadership in a safe way, where you could have hard conversations and have the courage to do something different, I don't think we would have been able to do that. A lot of the other cultures that we sort of mentioned through this talk are really things that bubble up and come out of that very first one. They all work together to form something different. And one of the things I think is important is for leadership to really understand when these things come through, but more when there are things that are preventing them from coming through, or the anti-patterns that then want to suppress them from coming through. And it's important to understand how those things have to continue to work together. Ultimately,
and sometimes it can be also very quick to undo something.
Yes.
So what you spend a lot of time building, you could undo it with a few words badly done or something. So language is important. Yeah.
Language is very important. Culture really for us is about sustainability, and culture enables sustainability. And the thing I want to really get through is that we have to be slightly different to be able to do something different, understanding the unintended consequences and enabling those possibilities in terms of the context that we set, but also being bold about taking action and accepting the consequences of those actions. So really, culture is still emergent and is continuously evolving. It takes longer than most people think it takes. It's not a 24-hour overnight thing. It does take time and is always a work in progress. The important thing is culture can actually influence leadership as well as be influenced by leadership. And if you have an intentional context set, you can actually pivot the culture that you have today. And I'd like to thank you for this time.
Thank you.